Hello, hello, salutations, guten tag, hola, um, hi, welcome to the Cybernetic Séance podcast. I am your host. Here's a dramatic sip. I am your host, Ryan Laney, aka Ryan Frankenstein. Also, I play that chrome-faced robot guy in the suit from the band Our Frankenstein. Welcome, welcome to the show. Got a really cool one for you guys today. We got a special friend of mine that goes way back. But before we get to my friend, we got a couple of special announcements here for all our new listeners out there. Our next show is let me see if I can do this the right way. I swear to God, I'll never be a good podcast host. This is just what we do. The next Our Frankenstein show is at Club Terminal in Downey, California. That's for all our SoCal and OC friends. Boom. It's gonna be a super cool show. We've got the Androgen opening up for us. Got a couple of cool DJs, Terminal, Revenant, Terror. It's gonna be awesome. Doors open at 9:30. Got a really cool lineup here, man. It's our first show since our last tour we just did with Cyclone 9 and 7 Factor. We got off that tour a few months back. And it's just a cool solo headliner, one shot. You know, if you guys are out there and you guys are wanting to get down with, like, just don't hesitate. Please, I need friends. All right. There's enough of this crap. Get that off the screen. All right. In case you guys do not know, our guest here tonight is Madison Gray. So he's a good friend of mine. He and I go way back. So let's give our good friend here a warm welcome, Madison Gray. Woo!
This is the NoFap convention, right?
Yeah. Oh no, man, you got
I've
you
been
got the
I've been
wrong
having
room,
some
brother.
chronic masturbation issues. I watch Bible Black and I need them girls with both parts, you feel me?
Look, man.
Just a part of my soul.
Look, man. I don't know.
Japan ruined my sexuality, and I don't know what to do about it, man. I used to make music. I used to go to church. I used to be a normal person. Now all I do is sit at home and watch Japanese porn all day. What the fuck?
You need therapy. You need therapy. I'm not even just talking to you. You need therapy.
I'm just fucking with you. Anyway,
Welcome.
hi. My name is Madison Gray. I'm a pretentious prick who makes music, makes YouTube videos, and sometimes hosts podcasts. Sometimes crashes others. Just your local
like today?
asshole. Hey, you invited me, bub. This ain't a crash.
Yeah, I sure did. If
Although you can really turn into one if you want.
Hello, this is the captain speaking. Let's see how this goes. Am I right?
And don't worry. I've got the right browser. I've got a good internet connection. I've got everything going. So let's I don't know. You want to ask me stuff, or do you want me to just taunt your audience? Do you want me to?
It's gonna be a mixture of both. I have a feeling. That's what it's gonna be.
Hey, I'll play nice. I'll play nice.
I'm just gonna throw. I've been trying to have structure the past few episodes, and what I've come to learn is I just gotta let go. It ain't gonna happen. This is just the type of show it's gonna be. It's gonna be chaos, and I think that's what the people want.
It's a live show most of the time. I mean, we're not exactly live today, but that whatever. You know, I don't mind. I know I'm not special enough to be live.
Secrets. Don't spoil the secrets.
Yeah, sorry, I can't leave my day job of selling tits to people. That's not a joke, by the way. I won't tell you what company I work for, but I work for a major. Just keep it all right to your audience. Big one. I work for a major medical organization, one of the big three, if you will, and my job is to harass doctors to pay for fake tits. And just so you know, these aren't just normal or not normal. These aren't just physicians out in Hollywood. Kaiser owes us over $400,000 currently just for July alone. So pay for your tits, people.
Uh-oh.
You have no proof that I of my employment or what I do or even my real name. So
Yeah.
suck my dick. Anyway.
Well,
Sorry, I don't know if is that allowed on the show? I forgot to ask.
Dick sucking?
I don't know. You sent me a list. Apparently I'm not allowed to say certain things.
We don't. Are we? Well, there's nothing on the list that says no sucking dick. But on the subject of sucking dick, because you see how I segue into that?
Yeah,
See how
clever.
Give us. I wanna. We wanna get into the nitty gritty of Madison Gray, because a lot of people here, they've seen your name on our song Hollywood Kids, and I say that because that's one of our more top performing songs. It gets the best reaction live, and statistics don't lie either. I'm looking at my
I've gotten in trouble over statistics, don't worry. I understand that game all too well.
But Hollywood Kids is our most popular song, and a lot of our fans who maybe don't know who you are, see your name, have seen you in the music video, and are like, who is Madison Gray? What is Madison Gray? Like, what kind of music do you make? Like, or who, just talk about yourself, man. Like, what was your first album?
Oh God. My first album was a little abortion of an EP called Poison. Now, let me just rephrase what I just said. I actually there's only a handful of songs I've put out that I can genuinely say that I'm not proud of. Just could have been baked a little more, could have sat in the oven, cooked a bit more. But no, Poison, I still love the songwriting on that. I like the tracks, but the production on it was awful. So I'm a one man show. I do everything myself, perform everything myself, record, mix, and master, and do everything myself. So my first EP was Poison. It was a mixed bag. Had a lot of fun making it. Learned a lot. Then I did this EP 2 years later called what is it called? Purity Ring. See how much I pay attention. But I'm not here to talk about that. If you want to hear some good shit, I got an album called Decadence that came out last year. That is one of the best metal records, or not really metal, industrial metal, dark wave, whatever you want to fucking call it. It's kind of all over the place you will ever hear. And I 100% stand behind that. I made it all in a bedroom with about $300 worth of shit. So, hey, engineers, give me money. I can make a lot work with a little. Imagine what I can do in your studio.
Hey,
sorry.
Simplicity sometimes is the best thing. You never know. Like, sometimes limitations give you, I don't know. It forces you to do more. I don't know.
But see, that sale was half baked. So we'll just leave it at that. I make music. I put out a new EP this year called I Feel Sick, which is I did that in a very short period of time. Probably the quickest I've ever got something done, 3 months. It was a lot of fun to make. But I want to know what you want to know, because I can just give you more useless junk information like that. So, be a good interviewer and ask me some questions.
What was it like? How was the experience, the profound experience of having the Ryan Frankenstein on one of your songs?
Considering I didn't even ask for it and it just showed up one day in my inbox, it was like, hey man, I thought it'd be cool to do a little bit of a chorus on this one.
Quick backstory. So my keyboardist at the time, still a very good friend of mine, Brenton Ferguson. Shout out Brenton if you guys are looking for a good producer as well. These two beautiful folks here, Brenton, Madison. Brenton is, he did pretty much all the production work for Our Frankenstein's A Pale Horse. But when he was mixing Madison's music, or I think he was working on some stems he was sending over to you.
Yeah. So I didn't have a mic at the time, so I'd go to his place to record my vocals, and he'd send me the stems.
And I being
it's also living out of my car.
Yeah, fair. Being the leech that I am, I was just, hanging out in this place and watching him do his thing. And I was like, I want to sing on this. So I just screamed into the microphone, did the chorus, did a couple of takes. Not really intending to actually excuse me, not really intending it for it to actually be on the song. I guess Brenton actually ended up sending it over to him, and
It sounded good, so I threw it on because it's like, why not? I
Yeah,
wanted to get you on a song already, possibly another one, but I wanted to get you on a song at that point. So I was like, hey, why don't I just use this? And it sounded good. And then live, when I used to play shows, I played a lot of shows with you back in the day. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun because that was kind of like a, I guess, to tack on a name to it. It kind of had some Combi Christ energy to it. So it was a lot of fun because it would get the crowd moving. And then you would come out on stage and people would get even more wild because you were much more well known than I was. And then, you come out and you had the two very different vocal styles. And then, we had not to get homoerotic or anything, but we had a very good chemistry with each other on the stage. So
bromance.
it was
Nice bromance.
always fun to play that one live. So that one's
And
actually
that song is
where,
called
like,
Social Suicide. Just in
Social
case nobody.
Suicide.
Yeah.
I couldn't sing at the time, so my singing's terrible. But I've got some good screams on it for you.
It's a great song, man. Your voice sounds great.
It does now. a lot of practice.
We got to get you at another show someday, and then I got to see those.
Yeah, I gotta get a band together again. I've been getting the bug, recently about wanting to, get the band back together. I want to do a lot more musical projects.
We gotta get the band back together, man. We gotta get the.
It's been turbulent. It's my main issue with shows, because so a lot of people might be like, no, you performed a lot of shows in 2018 and 2017. What happened, Madison? To address you people, all 5 million of you. 'Cause I know you're out there. If you are not in the good graces of the what do you want to call them? The gatekeepers of live shows, you pay a lot of money. And unless you got some money going, or you got some buzz in your name to be able to barter, you're going to be selling a lot of tickets, and you're not going to be selling a lot of those tickets to other people. Pay for play is it's a fucking scam. And so it's very expensive. And when you're someone like me, where you do everything yourself and you don't really have a live band, you kind of got to collect a bunch of weirdos to play live. So playing live becomes the expense of the live show, which is a few $100s, if not half $1,000. And then you got to spend another few $100s over the course of a couple of months perfecting your live show in a practice space, which, no offense to practice spaces, they're perfectly fair priced. But, if you want a good show, you don't want some dog shit, karaoke, you got to do that. And then if you want good players, you got to pay for them. So you got to pay for your players. And at the end of that, you're coming out pretty steep. It's about $1,000 a show. And I live out here in California, where money does not exactly flow. So it just became a thing where it wasn't really worth the price. And pre-COVID, pre-lockdown, people really didn't give a fuck about shows. Shows were kind of dying, especially at the local end. And so there wasn't that great a turnout. Now, I haven't gone to a show or performed since, everything's reopened. So maybe it's a different world out there now. But that was kind of my main thing. It just wasn't worth the money.
It's a whole new world, man. It's a whole new world. It's beautiful, man. You got to get back out there, man. You got to stretch those legs.
Trust me, for real. I've been getting the itch.
It was hard, I mean, I feel like right now, with the way shows are, places are opening up, a lot of places are shutting down. I think there's an itch for also a lot of people to go to shows. I've noticed, at least that could just be from my experience. I've had a lot of people like when we first came back and started doing shows, it was pretty after things started opening up. And
yeah,
we were actually, because I was a little nervous. I was like, God, are people gonna even want to go to shows now? And I was thoroughly surprised. Like, we did this headliner show at Club Terminal as well, and that was an amazing turnout. And there was so much.
Well, Arizona is just a slam dunk crowd as it is.
Like, no, that was Club Terminal. That was in.
Okay. I was gonna say, because when you go to other states and stuff like that, I've noticed that the ones that have smaller music scenes tend to be the ones that are more excited about shows, because it's not as common. I feel like there's a certain apathy that kind of comes when you live in a place like Austin or LA or Portland, Oregon, or New York, because it's like you're surrounded by it so much. It's like, I'll catch the next one. So
oversaturated, and people get a little jaded from it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, when I was a teenager, I went to shows all the time to the point where it was like, oh, this band that I've been waiting to see for years, I'll see them next time.
Yeah.
Where now I haven't been to a show in forever. I'm like, fuck, I gotta stop missing all these good ones. You know,
I
Crystal
missed
Lake
out on the-
came out not too long ago, and I missed out on them. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they are some very, very talented Japanese metalcore men. Also, their singer's hot. He's a good-looking man.
I missed out on the Rob Zombie tour. I mostly wanted to see Mudvayne. That was just me because, you know, I've never seen Mudvayne. I've seen Rob a bunch of times, and I love Rob Zombie music, but, you know, I mean, there's only so much of that.
Rob is kind of a one-trick pony. Like, it's fun, but the trick gets old after you've seen it a few times.
Like,
He doesn't
don't get me
really
wrong,
keep
like,
things
it's
fresh.
amazing. Like, the screens are awesome, but like,
oh no,
for
I'm
me,
not trying to
like,
discount it. But to me, Rob, if I can shit on him a little bit, Rob reminds me of a Vegas show.
Yeah, it's very flashy.
It's
yeah. I wanted
one of
to
those
see
things,
Mudvayne.
yeah. Mudvayne
Yeah.
would be dope.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off.
No, you're good. I'm still getting used to this podcast.
What do you
shit,
mean?
man? I got tickets to see.
I got tickets to see a band too.
I'm like trying to remember what's
I'm
the
like
fucking
trying to
band?
remember what are you trying to remember? I'm just being a dick. I'm sorry.
Oh God damn it! Rammstein, fucking Rammstein. I got tickets to see them in next month.
Ooh.
But I've had those tickets for the past 3 years.
Haven't you had? Yeah, I was gonna say, haven't you had those tickets for a long fucking time?
Yeah, me and my buddy Billy the Kid, who if anybody who knows the deep history of Our Frankenstein, Billy is in the lore, deep within the lore.
Billy's the secret eighth member.
That's right.
He's the Craig of OF.
Exactly. We had these tickets for like 3 years, and then COVID. You know, we originally got it. COVID, then blah. You know, but it's finally gonna happen. This guy, you know, I mean, I waited my whole life to see Rammstein, so this is gonna be a bucket list thing I'm gonna check right off. But look, I'm going down a path. I'm like Anakin Skywalker. I'm going down the path you can't follow. I want to play some shit. I want to play some music because that's also what this show is about, is playing music. So I'm going to play a song called Implicit by Madison Gray. Is there anything you could say about this before we get into it?
I'm not allowed to tell you about what the lyrics are about. It would break the rules of the show. But what I will say is that there's some messages for anyone who wants to pay attention to them, but also what do I say about it besides it's probably my second favorite from my new release, and I think a lot of people will like it. So, again, I wish I could tell you more, but I'm just fucking with you.
That's the beautiful thing, man. People can get their own interpretation or whatever, you know, because I mean, I've had people tell me, oh, this song, I really listened to the lyrics. This song is about this. And I'm like, nope, not at all. But we're going to let this.
Well, that's kind of why I wrote it. So I wrote one thing I'll say before you play it.
Cool.
Is, you know, a little tidbit to the audience. I like to write kind of complicated and not exactly complicated, but hard to swallow lyrics. And I like to put them on very dancey tracks. I like to make my more accessible songs the harder ones, because I think it's funny that this will probably, if it does get some airplay, end up being played at some goth clubs, have some go-go dancers dancing to it, not understanding what they're dancing to. And I love that. I love the irony.
Yeah.
I live for that. I live for the whoosh, the zoom over people's head moments, because I'm a pretentious asshole. So it gets me off.
Well, on the topic of getting off, we're going to play that song. Ladies and gentlemen, Implicit by Madison Gray.
Another day living through the collapse. Another day of watching the world burn. And for once, dollars agenda to keep all of us asleep. A banker's boot on our necks. Corporate class of Illuminati. A peaceful genocide. Feed the greed of our great rulers. Implicit in this violence, countdown to our extinction. Implicit in our destruction, stand up or be locked in your chains. Implicit in this violence, fight back or starve to death. Implicit in our destruction, wake up or be left in the dirt. Build the world on our backs, one brick at a time. Taught the truth so we could enlighten the mind. Stoic in nature to father the blind. In an attempt to please the divine. You can't take away our culture. You can't take away our soul. Wake up. 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 Implicit in this violence, countdown to our extinction. Implicit in our destruction, stand up or be locked in your chains. Implicit in this violence, fight back or starve to death. Implicit in our destruction, wake up or be left in the dirt.
Implicit by Madison Gray. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. If you're just tuning into the live feed right now, you are watching the Cybernetic Séance podcast. I am your host, Ryan Laney, aka Ryan Frankenstein, aka Nexus, the guy at the chrome mask, aka your mommy, aka your daddy, aka your grandpa, aka I don't know, man.
I'm just gonna let you hang on that one.
I'm not funny. I was actually gonna say Big Chungus for a moment, just to
And then you realize that it's fucking 2022.
and I'm 28 years old. You know, it's just like
Hey,
I'm like maybe I don't. You know, but
Hey, fan, that Big Chungus be busting.
do people just say just do it? You know, is that the thing people still say? Like that's
I don't
just
know
found out about
that comes in and out of relevance like every couple of years. You know what I've noticed? There's certain memes that just they'll die and they'll come back. They never really die.
Yeah. Was that from you ever watch
That was
it?
oh, sorry, go on. It
Was like anybody who he's like anybody dies in dairy, nobody really dies. That creepy old lady that gets naked, which I love. People are
You
scared
into-
of it.
What do you think of what do you think of grandmoms?
grandma?
You ever,
like,
you ever like sexually?
like that guy
what-
on TikTok? I don't pay
what are
attention
your-
to TikTok.
What are your
but, like,
sexual feelings towards gushing grannies?
gushing grape granny?
I'm gonna flip this interview on you. Tell me about your sex life. Do you think that your personal trauma and things that have happened to you have affected your sexual appetites?
Of course. I mean, doesn't it anybody's?
Is
I
that why
think
you like
that's how it
wax
works,
play?
right? Isn't that like axe play?
Wax play.
Yeah, no.
No, we're gonna fucking cut each other apart with battle. Actually,
I'm talking like.
Actually, you know that we know.
Oh no, this doesn't. Nothing gets cut. Nothing gets cut here. Oh,
It
it all
fun.
stays in. It all stays in.
I think if I make it to, I don't know, let's just say my mid-70s, I've earned a fun death. So I think I should find a group of other people like-minded like me, who are willing to get a bunch of real axes and swords, drop God knows how much acid we can do to get the best trips, and just fight to the death. I think that'd be fun. A fun way to go out.
Do it. I'll be the king witnessing the battle. I'll be sitting there drinking mead atop a throne. You know, like those big LARP castles or something. I'll just be sitting there.
LARP castle. That's a good way of describing it.
Kill yourselves. Die a noble death. Die for me.
You know, I know it's been kind of a meme, but why don't we just make Death Row inmates gladiators again? Yeah, I would fucking pay to see that.
Big old gladiator freaking dome.
You're telling me you don't want to see some Death Row inmate, some jacked motherfucker come out and fight for his freedom and his life against two just mauling tigers?
Could do like oh my god. That would be like you get freedom. If you win, you're free. You're free to go. But you know, if you lose, then you know you probably die.
See, it's fair. You got death row. You can fight to the death for your life, or you can just accept your punishment.
This is like that. Oh God. Had a thought and lost it again. Well, that's me. That's welcome to the Cybernetic Séance. Fucking. Oh, I'm gonna cross my legs here and get all fancy. Get all fancy here. I wish I had a cup of tea. Here, the rest of the episode is just gonna be me breathing.
See, my favorite thing is you can't see my actual face, so I can just sit here and smile at the camera, and you'd never know while you just hang in the awkward silence.
I have no idea.
You told me not to leave dead air, and I'm pretty good at that. But I like it when there's about to be dead air, and I can just let you struggle. I can just watch.
I usually just force a fart, and I'll just fart right into the microphone.
Sorry, go on.
The person who I know never has dead air and is always good at keeping a show going is Bill Manspeaker of Green Jello. Is a good friend. He had us on the show a couple times, but if you guys ever watch that show, What the Fuck TV, shout out What the Fuck TV. It's constantly going. It's just constantly going. I think we fucked up one time and got like a couple seconds of dead air because we were like waiting for the tracks to play or something.
See, dead air is one of those things that's just going to happen, right? And like when you do this stuff for so long, it kind of goes away. So like the best streamers, the best radio hosts, the best live performers, they're so good at keeping that out. But for the average person, just dipping their toe in, your first stream, your first show is just going to be awkward as hell, and everyone's going to be like, anyone who shows up is just going to be like, what am I here for? And it's just a muscle you got to flex. My way of dealing with dead air. The best way I've been able to handle dead air, in my opinion, is when I run out of things to talk about, I just start thinking about whatever comes to my mind that might be interesting. And because of the nature of the stuff that I do, if it's the more outlandish, the better. And it's fun to I don't know about this would work for the Cybernetic Séance, but for a very Z-list show like what I like to do, when you run out of things to talk about, think about what would make the audience feel awkward. How do I make this worse than dead air?
How do I push this even more?
And it's a lot. It becomes fun. It becomes a fun game because you can go to the obvious, like you can go to like something basic like gushing granny, or you can do what I'm about to do to you. And I'm going to ask you a very important question, Mr. Ryan Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Let's play a game of Would You Rather.
Oh man. Okay, folks, this is the first time we're ever going to do this. Here we go.
All right. Would you rather fuck your mom or your dad?
Oh, no. We're stopping it right there. The game is done. First time and last time of Would You Rather on this show. Nope, we're done. We're done.
You're telling me that you don't want to have the family fuck fest?
That is the joke or the question I've gotten
The
since I was like in
joke.
high school, junior high, the playground question of like, would you rather? And I'm like, and I fall for it every time. I'm like, yeah. And then the first question is always that one. I'm like, oh God.
That's the point. That's the point, because at the older you get, the less you expect it. Because you're like, I'm talking to another adult.
I'm
They're
a
not going to
boomer.
ask me that.
I'm a boomer, dude. I don't think you realize. Look at this. Look at this gray hair. Look at this gray hair, man. I'm an old man now.
Do you
I'm old
enjoy
in my
Lenny
time.
Kravitz?
I'm like South Park, where they're like, "We need you." It's like, no, I don't do that anymore. I'm like chopping wood outside my log cabin house. My wife and
Got
kids.
Creedence Clearwater in the background blaring.
They're like, "We need you. We need you to come out of retirement." No, I just don't do those things anymore.
No, I love that. So I want to throw something at you.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is a real, genuine question. So I know I've seen your show. I know you're gonna throw the horror movie question at me. So I got something a little different for you.
How did you know what I was going to segue into eventually?
It's almost like I did my homework. No, I want to know that if you had to pick 5 albums, that's it. Only 5 albums to take with you for the rest of your life. What are you taking with you? What are you going to listen to? If you had to narrow it down.
Narrow it down. Okay. 5 albums.
5 albums.
Downward Spiral from 9 Inch Nails. Demon Days from Gorillaz. The Wall from Pink Floyd. American Prayer from Elvis. And Antichrist Superstar from Marilyn Manson.
You know, all those are pretty good choices except for the Elvis. Not that it's a bad choice, just
Yeah.
not what I expected.
The American Prayer.
Not just
I like,
American Prayer,
I like to have a little
just,
balance,
just
man.
Elvis.
I just turn that. I'll turn that on and like, it's like relaxing. Hearing Elvis just go at it.
As
which
long
a lot of
as
people are-
it's actually Elvis singing and not a certain old man who should have quit years ago.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about you, Danzig. It's time to put it down.
Oh no. Oh, I know. Yeah, we're just
His
I love-
Elvis
I was-
cover album. I was excited for that. Okay, let me talk some shit. I was excited for that because I like Danzig's voice, and I thought, this guy sounds perfect to do like Elvis and the Doors covers, and that's what he was always compared to. So when it's like, oh, Danzig's gonna come out and do this Elvis album, I was like, sweet. And I was at Porta Sound Records, and I saw that right when it came out, and I was like, you know what? Let's make a fine addition to my collection. God damn, what happened to your voice, Glenn? Glenn,
Yeah.
please get therapy. Get vocal therapy, man. Used to be a god.
I know, man. I mean, when you let it go, it's like a muscle, man. Like if you aren't like I know he's constantly touring, but I mean, it just happens with age. Like I feel like it either withers with age. Like some people, especially if you're not using proper vocal techniques, which could be the case.
That might be the case. I think with him, it was just, the dude collects McDonald's toys. And I'm bringing that up because Morks is funny, but you look at these little nuances about people and you kind of look at his physique, and he was constantly battling being fat and being ripped, which means he probably never stopped bulking, which my guess is he doesn't have the best diet in the world. And as somebody who's yo-yoed through their weight more times than they'd like to tell you, it definitely affects your vocal range. It affects your voice. It affects everything because it changes the way that you can control your diaphragm and your tongue and your muscles and all that stuff. And so my guess is that he's gotten older. He's kind of let himself go because while you can say, oh, some people age and their voice gets worse, I can point to people like Kyo from Duran Gray. I can point to David Bowie for a more Western example. And these are guys whose voices got even more golden as they aged. Or even Billy Idol. I mean, Billy Idol is God knows how old as dirt at this point. He still sounds great. He still looks great too.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I would say even Till Lindemann, he's getting up there if I'm not mistaken, because he was pretty a lot older when he joined Rammstein, and so it was like his voice is still beautiful. I mean, I think it's aged perfectly because now he's singing a lot more like classical stuff, which is his voice is made for. Like that, his voice is made for that shit.
But yeah, no, I think he's one of them. Same thing with Damon Albarn. You mentioned Demon Days. He's another one who, he never lost his chops. He's still good. And I know he's a no-no and you're not supposed to talk about it, but even Morrissey still sounds fantastic. And I just want to say this right now. Fuck anybody who can't get over, oh, I can't listen to Morrissey because he says stupid things. If you knew the shit about any rock star of any era, just stop with this stuff. All right. It's not like he's, a certain a shock rocker that might have done some things that people still defend. And keep in mind, I'm a fan of this guy. I'm still a fan of his classic music, and I don't begrudge anyone for still liking it, but I just get so tired of that hypocritical, bullshit. Like, I think Morrissey is a cock, but fuck, I'm not going to stop listening to classic Smiths. You kidding me?
Right.
I could listen to Kermit the Frog sing all day. And yeah, he does sound like Kermit the Frog.
I was going to say, I wanted to ask you now. But yeah, you asked me that question, so now I must turn it on you. 5 albums, Mr. Madison Gray. 5 albums.
5 albums. Well, one of them would a few of these no one's ever heard, at least in your audience, because they're kind of niche. But I mean, number 1 would definitely be, I'm going to cheat and say The Vestige of Scratches by Duran Gray, which is a collection. It's like a 3-disc collection.
I know we got a lot of listeners out there listeners, watchers. I know we got a lot of people out there that like Duran Gray for sure. Like,
yeah, Duran Gray is my all-time favorite band. So I definitely take Vestige of Scratches because it's hard for me to pick just one era of Duran Gray. So I would take Vestige of Scratches. I would take Slide by George Clanton. A lot of people in this audience probably don't know who George Clanton is. Do yourself a favor. George Clanton is the David Bowie of our generation. Makes amazing music. Everything he's done has been fantastic. And I'm a picky guy. I don't say that about most people, but George, right up there.
True.
I would pick Shadow by Mr. Lies, another niche album a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's fantastic. Very interesting electronic indie stuff. And then I would pick. It's hard for me to choose a 9 Inch Nails record because they have also been up there in my top 3 for almost my entire life. So I want to say Downward Spiral, but in reality, I think if I had to choose one, it would have to be The Fragile.
Why? I mean, it's great choice, but curious as to why.
The songs on that one, it just on a personal level have just touched me a lot more, and it's a bunch more musically rich. There's a lot more going on with it than Downward Spiral. So there's more than just like I'm sad and angry and I want noise. It's got. Some of the songs have a more jazz influence. Some of the songs are, just straight up, industrial metal bops, and some of them are more rock oriented. There's just a lot of variety, and I can't just pick my favorites. I got to pick my favorites that are going to be fresh still after 100 listens. And the last album I take with me is one I don't think I've even told you about before. It's by a little known guy. So I'm just going to say shout out to Caleb Toogood. He goes by the name Toy Town. He put out an album called Killed My Dog in 2019. A lot of the songs still have less than 100 views on YouTube. And if you're into interesting, wacky, upbeat, but very bitter and very deep kind of music that ranges from electronic to indie to just really interesting kind of stuff, I can't recommend that enough. And that would be my pick as well. That guy wrote one of the best songs one of the best songs, obviously, but one of the best records I've ever heard in my life.
Man, I'm intrigued by that. I want to check that out. I have never heard of that before.
After the show, I'll send you some stuff.
Yeah, you got to send me some links here because I'm intrigued.
So I'm a musical hipster, and that's kind of why I started doing more than just music. I wanted to start doing like YouTube content. I don't really like to call myself a YouTuber because it's like I don't identify with it. Hey guys, today we're going to talk. I don't identify with that. For me, it was just an outlet of, no credible outlet is going to hire somebody like me to write for them. And I'm like, God, I gotta tell people about this really interesting stuff. And so I just decided to start making that, for fun, like in between working on albums and stuff like that, just have an outlet. Cause it's like, I was cursed with the hipster gene. And so I spend a lot of my free time just digging through the trenches of SoundCloud and Bandcamp and YouTube, just looking for stuff. And I've got a very wide palette of what I enjoy. And I found so many unsung artists that deserve way more love than they get. I could name you so many good artists that just they've got either a very moderate fan base that should be massive, or they've got nothing. Like again, like Toy Town is a really good example of that. This guy who's got like nothing, and like this guy should be bigger than people like fucking Mac DeMarco, like that level.
Yeah.
Like it's fantastic. So
I'm always
I
happy.
love
I'm
that.
always happy to see like bands or artists that haven't really gotten credibility, because there's a couple of artists that I've been following for years now that are finally just like getting out there and like breaking into, like, I wouldn't say like the mainstream, but like one Swedish band I've been a huge fan of for years is Priest, and now they're finally getting to a lot of recognition because off this new record. I think they signed with Cleopatra Records, and like things have been like, they're finally coming over to the States, which not a lot of European bands do, because
it's not worth the money. It's a lot of money to come out here. Touring Europe, you can go through 4 different countries in a month. Whereas in the US, I mean, like, isn't the US bigger than Western Europe?
I want to say yes.
Because I know it's not bigger than the entirety of Europe, because you have Russia and you have the Eastern Bloc and all. You have kind of those areas of the Middle East and West Asia that kind of bleed in. But I think just like the small pocket of like France, Germany, UK, and Sweden and all that, I think they're all kind of, I think it's a smaller circumference than the United States. I mean, I'm probably wrong. I'm not educated on European geography. I'm an American, suck my dick, heroes. But that being said,
America. I want to say,
problems.
because like I'm surprised Priest is finally coming out here, because over the years there have been so many European bands that I've been a fan of that I don't think have ever toured in the United States, like Lord of the Lost and Freak Angel. I don't know if you ever listen to Freak Angel.
Man, how do you think I feel? How do you think I feel as a weeaboo that listens to a shit ton of Visual K and Japanese music? Like, there's so many amazing artists that either don't come to the United States, or they just, when they do, it's very brief. Like, and I don't blame them, because again, like, you have the music scenes out in the East and in Europe are much more rich than they are here in America. So it's like you'll have bands like Japanese bands like the Gazette or Duran Gray, who are playing these massive arena shows, sold out arena shows to thousands of people all the time, like entire domes, and they come to the US and they're playing some dinky venue that I play.
Yeah.
It's just like I think when the Gazette came out here, they played I thought they would play like the Palladium or something like that, but they played Glass House. And
that's
no
like
offense,
how it is.
Yeah,
that's
no
like how it
offense
is
to Glass House, but you're not the Palladium and you're not an arena.
Exactly. I mean, there's tiers to touring, and usually, and a lot of people are surprised, because there's like club tours, you got your theater tours, then you get all the way up to arenas. It goes up and up and up, and a lot of bands.
You've got your pizza
really
tours
good
too.
one that's a really well-known band. Whenever they come to US, I know I haven't seen them in a while, but I know like Avatar is the band I'm speaking of. When they're huge in Europe, they play massive festivals, and I'm sure they do out here in the States. But I remember when they first started coming out here, they were playing like regular club stages, like regular stages that someone at my caliber would play. Obviously I'm not touring at the time. I was not touring the whole US, but I was surprised, to see Avatar playing smaller stages, until I realized how touring is. And especially from bands coming over to Europe, over to the United States, how different it is. I can see why a lot of European bands don't come out.
Well, it's a loss of investment. I mean, we can go back to what I talked about with like Paperplay, and they're probably not doing that, but the money it costs to come over and bring your crew, rent a van or a bus if you're big enough for it, and then the cost of the circumference of land. It's not like Europe, where you can kind of you can shuttle bus all over the place and you can get to a bunch of different countries really fast. It's not, even though the US is a massive country, our transit systems are not very good. Like as someone who's moved cross country a few times and you've toured, so you know what I'm talking about. These long stretches of road are very treacherous, and they do a lot of damage to your car. And that's the other thing. They're not coming out here with their own cars. They're renting vans. They're renting shuttle buses and things like that. So when they come and tour, they got to pay for any damages that's going to happen. And if you've ever been to the Midwest or to certain parts of the Deep South, just how bad those roads and the random spurts of monsoon rain or dust storms can fuck up, your your vehicle and how expensive that gets. And then you got the cost of food if you want to stay outside the van, the cost of any hotels, and just it costs a lot of money. So if you're getting diminished returns, there's not a whole lot to go out there besides fan service.
Exactly. Which is important, but at the same time, it's hard when you're this giant touring machine. You can't really take an L. Especially if you're going back to Europe or something and to do another tour, it's hard, especially on the pocket and everything like that.
Well, also to speak of a few other things, while I have your audience captive, I mean, I've talked about this for years. I did a video on it with an article I wrote and shopped around, and almost got published a few times, but a lot of the magazines I reached out to were just kind of afraid to do it, and that is just how rigged the system is here in America. Now, the massive music industry, like the top echelon of it, is rigged just about everywhere. Don't get me wrong, but in America, it's kind of the heart of it, for a lot of the rest of the world, because our stuff goes everywhere. And while their stuff still technically comes here, only handfuls of it do, unlike us. And a big part of that is there's the culture side of it, and then there's the rigged system of it. A lot of labels don't want to pay or fund for full bands. People. I've actually been doing some research. I'm curious to enter into this topic and write about it. But the death of rock and roll. And when I say rock and roll, I'm not just talking about, your classic, your boomer butt rock. I'm talking about rock and everything it entitles, all its subgenres, the genres that were birthed from it, like metal and punk and those sorts of things. And it really died a very quick and pathetic death over the last, I want to say, 10 years. And in my research of it, I've come to 3 different conclusions. And that is the labels destroying it, intentionally and unintentionally. And I'll get into that in a second. Cultural sensitivities that kind of prevent rock from being what it's meant to be. And on top of that, there is the production element. And so to get into that and kind of, I guess, make it quick and concise, the labels kind of fuck things over because I want to say the turn of the millennium, after Y2K, a lot less labels were interested in funding experimental and new things. They stopped looking for the new thing. So they didn't want to lose money. And that's why you had bands like Creed and Nickelback, Theory for a Dead Man, and the butt rock that really isn't even all that bad. It's not good. It's just mediocre, but it's mass marketable and it sells, and it's an image. You have to put it in a bubble. When you think of mainstream pop, mainstream hip hop, even mainstream EDM, versus, the entirety of the electronic scene, they're shadows of what they are to the rest of that scene. In every genre I just mentioned, especially hip hop, if you're a hip hop head or an electronic head. But what the labels will churn out is whatever is the safest, most mass marketable, what they can get into commercials, what's not going to offend anybody in a way that is, can cut costs, that can cut profits. And it's not a political thing. It's a money thing. They just want as much money as possible. And with rock, there is the costs of funding one of those bands and paying, 3 to 8 people versus paying 1 motherfucker or 3 motherfuckers. And then when it comes to production costs, it costs a lot more money to put a rock band in the studio and pay for a few weeks to even a few months sometimes in a professional studio with an entire team of engineers and producers to make a fantastic record versus paying Billie Eilish's brother Phineas to go in his room on his laptop, put up, get a dinky beat with a bunch of VSTs, and no
Fire
shame
up
to
Yo
that.
FL Studios.
And there's no shame in that, by the way. And I'm not trying to shit on that. I'm not a fan of Billie Eilish. I think her music's tacky and lame, but bedroom producers isn't a bad thing. But to make stuff like a lot of modern pop, EDM, and a lot of hip hop, it's really not that hard. It does not take much gear either. It's very cheap to produce. So it's very cheap to produce, very quick to produce, and then you can put it out. Why wouldn't you do that? So it's a mixture of not wanting to pay for rock bands being expensive, and also just the cultural sensitivities of rock has to be dangerous. I mean, there's the meme of Imagine Dragons is a rock band, Coldplay is a rock band, and if you listen to shitty rock radio, they actually do get played.
Yeah,
and with rock music, it's got to be dangerous. And I'm not just saying that to be an edgelord, like rock's got to be dangerous. but of every era, even the fucking hair metal era, the most vapid era of like rock and metal music, there was still some substance. There was still dangerous. There was some element that was a little edgy, a little gritty, and that's not really with how. Again, I hate. I'm gonna vomit saying this because I know it's like boomers have ruined it, but with kind of PC culture, you can't have a Marilyn Manson today, and not just because Marilyn Manson did some bad things, but this all came to my mind, and when I was revisiting his 1996 set at Bizarre Festival, right after Antichrist Superstar came out, you couldn't have a band.
That's an awesome fucking set too.
That's an awesome set. You couldn't have a band come out like that harshly with the lyrical and visual, elements that are so against what popular culture is, and when a genre that's kind of built on rebellion, because I mean, even Elvis was edgy for his day. You can't really sell that anymore when all the edge is washed out of it. Then you just get Nickelback. Yeah. You get some 40-year-old schmuck butt rock singer crooning about some girl that he wants to fuck, and no one wants to hear that.
No. We don't want to hear about that chick.
That is kind of why rock is dead. Whereas, you have people like MGK making their living off of rock these days. You have every time Miley Cyrus does a fucking cover of a metal song, people are all of a sudden into it. I mean, just look at the Metallica explosion after Stranger Things. There's obviously an audience for it. People never stopped liking it. It's just that it stopped being profitable. We're paying Lil Yachty or, somebody like, he's kind of outdated, but basically any of those kind of like modern rappers these days, it's so much cheaper just to be able to come out with some SoundCloud beat that they bought and jump around and sing a bunch of vapid bars, and 100,000 motherfuckers are going to buy it.
Would you say there are any artists that would be considered more mainstream that have at least some form of integrity with their art or music?
I mean, there are. I mean, I kind of stopped paying attention to the mainstream because I got bored with it. I mean, for a while, Kendrick was like that, but since Damn, he's kind of been generic and boring.
Did you listen to the last Weekend record, the Dawn FM?
No, I didn't. I heard it was good. I mean, The Weeknd's one of them. Actually, I do have somebody. Okay. And you're probably gonna laugh when I say this, but fucking Bruno Mars.
No, Bruno Mars is killing it. He's doing some like old school
Bruno
shit,
Mars is a fantastic songwriter, and I mean, The Weeknd is too. I'm just not as into him, but like Bruno Mars is somebody who I 100% believe in the integrity of what he does. He's a pop artist, but he's not somebody like, and I'll even say Pharrell Williams. He's another one like that. Tyler, the Creator, I think, is another one like that, even though I don't really care for his new music compared to his old stuff. Because I grew up with old Odd Future. So, Odd Future, Wolfgang, Kill 'Em All for life, fam. But there are some artists that are still pretty genuine and that I do think are like that, but it's the minority, because again, the way a lot of modern contracts work, and this is why people like Taylor Swift and Kanye West react so negatively to labels and Spotify, is that modern labels are no longer, labels used to just be they used to just release your music. They're your distributors. And then when distribution kind of started to die, they're like, well, we need some of that t-shirt money. We need some of that tour money. We need all this money, right? Because they need to make money. And when their business is going down, because, I can pull an Arctic Monkeys and just go put it on MySpace, and now I'm making tons of money, or I can pull a Mac DeMarco and put it on Bandcamp. If you want a more modern example, there's no need for a label. Well, now they'll do everything else for you, but they'll take a bigger cut. Now that's not enough anymore. So a lot of modern contracts, they don't just own, a little piece of everything. They own you. So for example, with Kanye, he's a really good example of this. I know a lot of people don't like Kanye for let's say some legitimate reasons, even though I'm a big fan.
I will say, sorry to some of the listeners out there who are learning this about me for the first time. Yes, there is some of Kanye's work I am a huge fan of. Jesus is one of the greatest industrial records of all time.
Hey, that was my line. Jesus is fantastic. Jesus Christ, or Jesus is King, is fantastic. Donda was a mixed bag, but I like a lot of the stuff on Donda. My Dark Twisted Fantasy, 808s and Heartbreaks. You can go back as far as The Graduation. I love Kanye, but to get back onto the point, Kanye is somebody where his label, yeah, sure, he signed one of those 360 deals, right? His modern contract now, he went and he funded and started Yeezus. And he either created those designs himself, or he went and got a team and did it, like a normal entrepreneur would do. Should the label, who has nothing to do with Yeezy clothing get any money from those shoes, from those hoodies? Probably not.
Yeah.
They didn't fund it, but they do, because now with modern contracts, especially for people that are that big, they own your trademark, they own your name, they own fucking everything about you. Without you, basically, it's indentured servitude, but you still get rich. But even if you're buco rich, what I think a lot of people don't understand, it's not just like, oh, I'm not making enough money. But imagine working your ass off to create a legacy, and you've got an entire room of motherfuckers taking 60% of that from you, just because you signed a contract with them 10 years ago.
I think something like that happened with that kid Lil Xan too. I think he had like some huge freak out. I remember that happened like 2 years ago or some shit. Like Lil Xan like was like, "This I can't even drive this car." You know, he was like freaking out. But he did have a point. You know?
He has a point, but Lil Xan is the wrong messenger for that, because the big problem with him was he stopped making hits. So he stopped making music. He stopped putting out stuff. He started half-assing everything, and so he got into a bunch of debt. So he's the very dark end of that story. But yeah, that's how a lot of modern contracts are. Yeah. And the other thing too is this, they're not just doing this to people like Kanye West and Taylor Swift who've been around the block, but I mean, he's a guilty pleasure of mine. But Trippie Redd is a really good example of this. Trippie Redd,
I love Trippie Redd, man.
I don't like 6ix9ine, but 6ix9ine's another one like this. A lot of those SoundCloud rappers, people like to get mad at me, and people like me for saying this is all industry plants. These guys weren't signed for their music. Trippie was signed as, I think, a 16-year-old. He was 15 or 16, because he shook the right hand with somebody, and he was a good-looking kid that looked the part for the sound. And so he got signed by, I can't remember the son, whose son it was, but it was the son of a very, very, very legendary record executive for Warner Brothers. And that's where he came from. And then he discovered 6ix9ine on Instagram, and he got him signed to his management. And that's how a lot of these guys were. Lil Xan was the same thing. He was just some kid who hung out next to Adam 42 of No Jumper Podcast, his store, and he shook the right hands with the right people. He looked the part, even though he had no real talent. Yeah, even though he had no real musical talent, they looked at him like, you're a star. You have star power. You look the part. And they do that. They make these people stars. I mean, same thing with, I know a lot of people are going to get mad because I'm shitting on him, but fuck, what's his name? Who's the guy? Who's the dude who did Montanero, whatever the fuck that stupid song was? And Old Town Road. Lil Nas X. Lil Nas X was just some TikToker.
Yeah,
he was just some TikToker, and and that's the thing.
Some of the biggest industry plants of all time. And a lot of people look it up if you don't believe me. Sex Pistols. They're one of the biggest industry plants of all time.
Oh, they were total industry plants because the UK needed their own Ramones. That being said, Johnny Rotten's a legend. Public Image Limited is fantastic. I'll never discredit his musical credibility. But also, you got to remember that came during a time where you had to have a little bit of that. It's not like now where you have entire teams of people that could do all this stuff with computers, and making a trap beat is just getting your basic 808 kicks and snares and your raindrops going, and then you get your sub bass and your hey, yeah. You don't even have to rhyme anymore with modern hip hop. Just say a and yeah.
Shitting and pooping, baby. Shitting, pooping, ice cream scooping. Well, I want to play some music right now because we're talking about music, and I want to play another song from you.
Oh, what you gonna play?
I'm gonna play "Pretty on the Inside." Is there anything you can tell us about this one?
I mean, I got a lot to say about "Pretty on the Inside," but I'm not gonna say any of it. I'm just kidding. "Pretty on the Inside" is actually a song that I wrote a long time ago. It came out last year, but the original version of that riff I wrote when I was 16. Back in 2012. It was heavily. It was when I was trying to make like post-hardcore music because I was really into bands like From First to Last and The Used, and I wanted to write my own kind of stuff like that dark post-hardcore edgy emo stuff. And so I was like, I'll try to come up with a riff, and I came up with that dun part, and so it stuck with that, and I had that for years, and then I developed the chorus for an entirely different. The chorus came from an entirely different track I wrote for an old project I had called Jade before I went into the Madison Gray in 2016. And then over the course of the next few years, I was like, there's some good parts in some of these old shitty demos, and I was like, let me smack them together. And then Pretty Nancy came around, so it's an oldie but goldie.
Well, on that note, pretty on the inside by our host today, Madison Gray.
Herself won't look at me. I'm dying from the inside out, and it shows. Skin so cold, it's colored like snow. Beaten and bruised just for you. Mountain on fire, hollow inside. Drifting voices fill my mind. Beaten and bruised just for you. And it stops its pull. This feeling right now. Slowly breaking through the bars of my heart. Soon, oh very soon, to escape this narration. Away, away it goes. Just pull me out of my ocean of fears, and the light that I hear, they won't pull me down. Dug down to the bone with self-inflicted scars. I'm dry as a desert, God save me please, before my personal demons sink their teeth deep in me. Run right down to my vile core. Anxiety pulls me down to the floor. Trapped in these waves, I'm gasping for air, and I drown. Slowly breaking through the bars of my heart. Soon, oh very soon, to escape this very sound. Away, away it goes. Just pull me out of my ocean of fears, and the light that I hear, they won't pull me down.
Pretty. ... Just kidding. On the end.
So funny tidbit about that I think people might get a kick out of. So that little that vocal sample that you hear, that it's the sound you hear right before the chorus plays every time.
Yeah.
That's actually a slowed down to the point of chopping sample of some Japanese girl saying "itadakimasu," which just
And
means
what does
let's
that
eat.
mean?
Let's eat.
What?
It just means let's eat.
Oh,
Yeah, apparently, I think people try to say it's a custom. I don't know. I'm not gonna say it is. I don't think it is. It's just something that you say when you're with friends, apparently, before you eat in Japan. Itadakimasu or whatever. So I had pulled a sample of that, and I was like, this would be really funny to put in this really fucking dark song.
man, you are a weeaboo.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a big anime fan. Well, I like obscure. Again, I'm a hipster with that too. I like obscure bullshit. My favorite movie of all time is Akira.
Oh yeah, baby. Akira is an amazing movie. I mean, I'm not just making fun. I don't like anime or anything. It's not like I've got all these badges from years of going to Anime Expo in LA.
Hey, man, Rock Lee is one of the tightest characters in Naruto. I saw his face on there.
How tight.
Tight. Although I
Yeah.
think when it comes to Naruto, I don't think I do know. I'm not a big how does the kid say it? Naruto. But I
was
really
an
like
old word, man. I remember that.
I got called that a lot in middle school for being a
Me
big fan. Like it's not one of those things I took with me into adulthood, but the first half of the series I'm still a big fan of, and all I gotta say is Itachi is one of the best characters in all anime. I love Itachi and Gaara, because you got Gaara who's just like this edgelord and he's supposed to be this edgy villain, and he has the best redemption arc. And I'm a sucker for redemption arcs.
Oh man, those flashbacks, I remember they were going back and forth too, of his childhood, and like, was it his mother's brother attempted to kill him?
Yeah, because he's got the demon in him and sealed away in him. They want to kill it. Yeah. It's I love that element of redemption, because you don't really get that in the West. Like you do, but it's always really lame. Like, he was good the whole time, or he was just misunderstood. It's never like, here's somebody who might have. Yeah, it's never like, here's some dude that maybe they have some legitimate reasons to be bad, but they become actually fucking bad, and then they have that redemption. Like that's something that you earn. It's not something you can just be like, oh well, he was good the whole time, he's just misguided. It's like, no, you're a spoiled brat. I'm talking about you, Kylo Ren. I'm talking about you, Disney Star Wars. You suck dick.
I'm talking about
so excited.
Robot guy from Grandma's Boy.
Oh god,
I haven't really kept up with much Star Wars, but I did watch the Kenobi series, and for the most part, I'll say that was pretty exciting. Because I'm gonna say something that maybe a lot of people might disagree with me on, but I enjoy the prequels, even the shitty aspects of the prequels.
Oh, I fucking love the prequels. I grew up with those. I'm biased. I'm biased because I saw episode 3. It was my first time going to a midnight premiere when I was a kid, and I'll never forget that. And it's not a good series of movies, but you can't deny they're fun.
Yeah,
they've got more soul to them too.
Yeah,
I'll say. Yeah, go on.
Sorry. No, you sweetheart.
The modern trilogy, just the Disney trilogy, like it's already been kicked into oblivion. So I'm not gonna take another jab at it. There's no need to. I think everyone's kind of the opinion that really wasn't that good. It was kind of an abortion, but it lacked any sort of genuine heart to it. And sure, the prequels are far from being the original trilogy, but you can tell that George Lucas, maybe in a very diluted and very stupid way, he still cared.
Yeah.
Like I can watch some really terrible movies, and as long as there's some heart there's something for me to connect to, I'll still find a way to enjoy them.
Out of the 3, episode 3 definitely had the most like, okay, we're gonna try to make this one kind of serious, but it was very dramatic and I guess a little cringy there in the end. Kind of going back, because when I first saw that movie and the years following of me watching it, I used to think that like all those ending scenes, like all those one-liners of like, if you're not with me, then you're my enemy. I used to think that was so cool. And then now,
you're a kid.
Yeah, but then now I'm watching.
Like one-liners are so badass as a kid, but now when you go back to them, they're always terrible. The only one-liners that I can ever really get behind in movies are cheesy 80s one-liners.
Oh yeah, those are
like when Arnold is screaming, "I'll be back" and shit like that. Like you can't not smile at that.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
If it bleeds, we can kill it. Shit like that's fun.
Yeah,
because it's a macho meathead. It's exactly what you think would come out of that guy's mouth.
Exactly. That's what I love about like Terminator and Predator and like those films from the 80s, because I honestly hate action films unless they're from like the 80s or 90s. If it's anything outside of that, I really don't give a shit. Like
that's
I don't like
action movies. Just kind of at a certain point they became too full of themselves. I think that's why everyone liked John Wick so much, because it's like it's like a comic book series. Like so I'm a nerd, right? I like manga, I like graphic novels. Not really into like cape shit. Never really been a big superhero guy, but I love graphic novels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it feels like a graphic novel series that you would see being produced by like IDW or like Image Comics or something like that.
Yeah.
And it takes itself seriously enough when it needs to, but it doesn't do so in, so much so that the action then just becomes this ridiculous spectacle with no substance. It's always fun, and that's what action movies are. I mean, like, I know, like, the Scorsese quote about the Marvel movies, but the thing is those aren't trying to be theme park rides, but they just are. Whereas action movies are supposed to be roller coasters. They're supposed to get your adrenaline going. You want an action movie that's not like that? Watch a thriller. Watch a non-scary thriller. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with slasher films. People do the same thing. Oh, there's no substance to it. There's not really supposed to be substance behind Michael Myers or any of these guys, except for maybe in their prime films. Slashers are just supposed to be fun. You can give I love slashers. You can give a good story to them. But like even the first Scream, you have a premise that gets you in, you have an interesting little hook to it, and then you make the violence and the mystery fun. That's all you need. But Hollywood wants to make everything super serious, and now like everything has to be some like meta universe, which I think is fucking dumb. Like the Conjuring universe, like fuck, don't ruin the Conjuring with all these crappy Annabelle ripoffs in movies. Like fuck that.
I'm like not looking. I mean, I'm going to sound like the typical guy on the internet, but I'm not looking forward to new Joker. I mean, it could be good, but I mean, I don't want now to get a Joker verse, where you got all this now. Like now there's going to be like 4 Joker 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it turns to crap down the line
because there's no need for it. Like here's the thing: I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt that
could be good.
Todd Phillips, regardless of if it's a good sequel to Joker, which I don't think it will be, I think it will still be a decent movie because Todd Phillips really proved himself a Joker, and I don't think there was originally plans to make another one. So it seems like, and the fact that it's going to be a musical, it doesn't look like a cash-in. I think it looks like it's something else.
Now, on my less pessimistic side, I think with it being a musical, doesn't seem like it. Well, yeah, like you said, I guess it's just because it's like. From my understanding, this is all going to take place inside a psych ward.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming, I don't know. I'm assuming that these musical sequences that are going to arrive in the film are going to be more under like his like delusions or like some like not psychedelic, but like psychotic episode or.
Well, it's revolving around Harley Quinn, isn't it? I mean, it's about her going crazy too.
Now, they said Gaga's going to be in it. I was talking to someone the other day about this actually because I'm stupid and maybe I'm thinking too deep into it and they're not even thinking that deep into it at all. But I'm like, oh, what if it's not even Harley? Like, yeah, she's like a Harley like character, but everyone's like, oh, she's the next Harley Quinn. I'm like, well, what if I don't know, like Arthur Fleck isn't Jack Napier, So like maybe
I'm just saying Harley Quinn is in like the character archetype, not so much the actual character. I mean, like arguably Joker isn't even Joker; he's Arthur Fleck.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where, and that's the one thing or the reason why I'm not pessimistic. I'm just not. I'll say I'm reserving judgment. But the reason why I'm not like overly pessimistic about it is purely on the fact that they mostly just use the moniker to fund the film. You could remove the Joker Batman element and you would still, replace, Wayne with a different, name of a billionaire and, replace, Joker with give him some silly name and maybe even give him mime makeup and the movie still works. It's not like a Marvel film or a Snyderverse film where it relies on the characters of the comics themselves. It's just using their names and likenesses in their worlds in order to present you a story that is going to be good regardless of its context.
I think Todd Phillips definitely knew what he was doing by picking Joker and like signing with DC because the movie isn't about a killer clown who's, hunting Batman or trying to rob banks. I mean, it's just about a tormented loner, basically.
It's a tormented, mentally ill man. I mean, I hated the incel angle of it because it's like he's not an incel.
Technically, no, he's not hating on women.
Well, not even that. He's not even out there for sex. You know what I mean? Like the whole incel angle annoyed the piss out of me, because it's like you could make something out of the incel story, right? And I'm actually one of those people where when it comes to incels, I have a very mixed opinion. As on one hand, it's really funny to laugh at them. They are a funny bunch to mock, and there's a lot of gnarly, like, disgusting people in that crowd, obviously. But at the end of the day, when there's literally millions of these people churning up, I think it's a little shitty to just start, at this point, continue to punch at them, because if there is some contingent in society or something, and there has to be, otherwise you wouldn't have literally millions of these guys popping up, maybe we should address it, because, letting them gather around on the internet, like they'll describe their little incel forums as a support group. And here's the thing. It is a support group. It's just the same as if AA or Narcotics Anonymous was run by a bunch of junkies. Imagine that. And that's kind of how it is. So that's why they get more extreme, because they get into this toxic little bubble, and they're giving each other more. They're co-signing each other's really messed up ideas and ideologies.
It becomes a echo chamber.
Yeah, and again, it's. I think at this point, when again there's such a problem, there's so many millions of them. It's like, okay, if there's a handful of these guys on the internet, there's a few hundred, even a few thousand, whatever. The internet's huge, whatever. But when there's, again, as many as there are now, it's like, okay, what's causing these people to pop up? And that's what I hated, because what if it was something to talk about incels? Is it that wrong to want to understand that group more, maybe have some empathy and be like, well, how do we actually help these people to stop creating monsters, right? Like, what can we do to address this issue to stop creating monsters? And while Joker isn't about incels, I like the dialogue that it opened up about mental illness and isolation in general, because that is a massive problem. It's kind of ironic it came out right before the pandemic, but isolation and all that, it makes you into a bitter monster. A lot of people can turn into Arthur Fleck, maybe not at that level, but
I do like the sort of effigy. I would say effigy as opposed to a martyr, because sort of symbolism in the film, because I wouldn't say he's necessarily like a Jesus Christ to the riot, because you got a riot at the end of the film. Spoiler to anyone who hasn't seen the movie by now. There's a whole riot, and everyone's up in a frenzy about this clown killer who everyone thinks is fighting for their cause. I like the fact that he's more of an effigy to them, because he's
a wicker man.
Yeah, he wasn't someone they were searching for forever, and that they he suited their cause. They just kind of, a lot of these people in the film needed a reason, and he was that reason. And he and like you see at the end of the film, he's ends up in a psych ward.
Because you're not supposed to idolize him. That's the thing, is you're not supposed to idolize Joker. You're not supposed to watch this movie and be like, oh, he's the literally me. You're not supposed to. It's like Travis Bickle. You're not supposed to be, oh, I'm literally Travis Bickle. The fact that you empathize and you begin to root for them and you understand them is the point of the movie, because it's not about creating a sympathy. It's creating an empathy. It's like, well, fuck, if people like this exist, how do we help them? And that's what that's what I got from Joker. I watched it and I'm like, yeah, there's tons of these people. I guess to get incel, I think every man at some point, when they go from being a boy to a man, that's a really hard threshold to kind of break through. And it can be extremely isolating if you don't have a good support system or people around you. And you can end up becoming this weird, isolated dude. And then if you have some, if you're a little cuckoo upstairs, you're a little
neurodivergent,
you might develop certain thoughts and feelings, and then when you're so isolated from society, you feel like no one understands you, you're not communicating, you stop existing in the real world and you exist in your head. And of course this takes place before the internet, but then if you were to add the internet in, you start connecting with these other people who feel just like you online, but they're also just as ill, if not more ill than you. It's just one of those things. I think a lot of people, it's a slippery slope, and I like the dialogue that Joker opened up, and I just wish that people would see that more. Again, that's why I hated the incel angle. It's like, oh, let's stop people from talking about this, but you should talk about it. You should look into it and be like, well, if there are these isolated, lonely people in the world that are just slow cooking into insanity, how do we help them? What bridge do we have to build? What olive branch do we give out to get these people the help they need, so they don't turn into Joker? And I don't care. They could kill Robert De Niro for all I care, but kill Robert De Niro on live television.
Yeah, that fake Italian. You ain't no real Italian boy. No, I'm just kidding. The Irishman.
For an Italian, he still has a pretty thick head of hair.
He's Irish.
Oh, he is?
Hey, he's Irish. He's not Italian.
No, he always plays these like Italian ass characters.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying.
I had no idea. Oh, that's funny.
Well, I guess that's sort of what has me apprehensive towards the second film. I mean, it could be a great film for all I know. I guess my fear is that it dilutes the original message. Like now you have this sort of like romance story between Harley and Joker, which I know is going to open up the dialogue of Stockholm syndrome or abusive relationship.
Well, no, here's what I hope they do with it. I hope they don't go down the Stockholm syndrome route. I hope they go down the obsession route. Because that's the other thing. So
with him, I hope
him and her would work either way. Because let's look at the film, right? A big part of that film, I guess, the quote unquote incel angle of the film is his pseudo relationship he has in his head throughout that film with his neighbor. And what I think would be interesting, because you see a lot of these people. There was this guy, I can't remember his Daryl Pratt something, and it was a story about basically this dude. This really happened, who had this obsessive, like one-sided relationship with this online presenter for IGN, and he basically became this like obsessive stalker and was like super in love with her and stuff like that. But again, think about that angle that what we just talked about with, I guess you can say incel-y, but even Joker would kind of fit into this. You have this mentally ill, pushed out of society, very, just this bubble. He's in this bubble, turning into this thing, molding. Now add in infatuation. If you've ever fallen in love, if you've ever liked a girl and vice versa, liked a guy, I'm sure you know just how bad that can go, especially if you're a young teenager. Now stick that into a mentally ill, ostracized person that already has a problem socializing, and the obsession angle can go very far. And so if they take that, the Arthur Fleck character is the exact kind of character, because he didn't get to that point after killing his mom to get there, but he no longer has that female figure in his life, and he no longer has his neighbor to have that relationship with. So what better than to demonstrate that between what probably a lot of people who suffer from this and end up in institutions have happened to them, where they have a very kind, very pretty nurse take care of them. So I think if they take it in that angle, it can be good. Again, I think Joker 2 can be good, but like I said, I'm reserving judgment.
Judgment shall be reserved. And with that, my friend, I hate to tell you this, it's been so much fun. I would like to think this is probably the more real the show has ever gotten, and I'd like to keep that shit going. Like, keep actual topics popping up on this old doodaddy. But
that's what's fun about podcasts. You get to actually talk about things that people normally wouldn't be able to talk about. Like, again, not to make it all about incels, and just to set the record straight, I'm not saying you should go on r/brain cells. You really shouldn't. That's a really toxic fucking. It's a haven of mental illness and misogyny.
Look,
but
I want to tell my audience one more thing. I want to tell my audience something. You stare into the void and it stares back. There's no going back.
Yeah, it's more so just it's. I think that the fun thing about podcasts is you get to actually talk about stuff like this and have a dialogue about it, because it's interesting. I think it's more interesting than I've got this new single coming out, and that's fun. But there's only so much you can say about the new single before it's just like, then I was on tour, and then I ate a cheeseburger, and then I shat my brains out for 3 days, and then I met this really amazing fangirl. I took her back to my we won't go there.
This ain't Warped Tour. Just kidding.
This ain't the LA goth scene.
Oh ho ho ho! Shots fired. You hear that? With that being said, though, hey, LA Goth Scene, don't forget, Our Frankenstein has a show at Club Terminal in Downey, California on October 15th. If you didn't hear that earlier in the episode and you're tuning in later, if you're watching it.
Yeah, and buy a fucking shirt, you cheapskates.
Come on, LA.
You know how expensive it is to stock
shirts?
Do you know how expensive it is to stock merch?
It's such an
Ryan
LA
has
thing.
been eating nothing but Rotten Tomatoes for 3 weeks now. His asshole is a faucet.
Buy
we
some
don't have
shirts.
any more. We don't have any more Rotten Tomatoes. I have resorted. Look. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Give me 1 sec. Oh yeah.
To anyone in the audience that is susceptible, the numbers are 5, 8, 2, 6,
No,
7,
no.
5, 8, 2, 6, 7. Do not go to your local Walmart. 5, 8, 2, 6, 7.
I have resorted to eating my own merch. You see that, guys? So before you know it, the merch is gonna be gone too, because this is lunch for tomorrow. when I
And
go to work.
this ain't no fucking Walmart shit. This is some nice store frontier material.
That's,
You know,
that's
buy
the good stuff.
an Our Frankenstein shirt, buy an Our Frankenstein CD. Get my boy some primetime McDonald's. Don't make him buy off the dollar menu. Let him get that
guys,
Big Mac.
You know what? I got something right here. You guys don't even need to go to, because if you're watching the bottom of the screen here, you already know. But you don't need to go to a show to get our merch. You can go to our store frontier at storefrontier.com/Our And just as that video said, we have some tank tops here, some limited summer tank tops. So we're probably going to have that up until the beginning of October, and then we're going to take those bad boys down. So if you want tank tops again from us, you're going to have to wait another year. So if you want to get that shit, go down there. Pay attention to the link.
When's the OF booty shorts coming?
Whenever Store Frontier lets us make booty shorts. I might make some to sell at the show, though. But we're pretty much wrapped up here, guys. This is the end of the show. So Madison, it's been a beautiful pleasure. Plug yourself.
It's been fun.
Plug
You can
yourself.
find
Not
me,
in that way.
No, that's in the closet. You can find me online under the handle Graymads, GRAYD. Oh, I fucked up my own name. GRAYMADS. I'm on YouTube. I have 2 channels. On my video channel, got my music channel, Madison Gray Music or Graymads on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, not very active. You can find me on Twitter under the handle Graymads. And I look forward to seeing you guys.
Check it out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Cybernetic Séance podcast. Once again, I am your host, Ryan Laney, a.k.a. Ryan Frankenstein, a.k.a. Nexus, a.k.a. your mommy, a.k.a. your daddy, a.k.a. your grandpa. It's been beautiful. Thank you for tuning in. I love you. Goodbye.
Attention shooters, 5, 6, 4, 3, 8, 9, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 8.